Hey, we are in Philadelphia, standing right in front of Independence Hall. You can see that behind me. And this is the old city district of Philadelphia. And so we got Independence Hall, we got the Liberty Bell right behind us. We also have Congress Hall right beside Independence Hall. And specifically, Independence Hall is a significant building and a major piece of American history. It was built in 1753, and this was originally known and called the Pennsylvania State House. And guess what? This building served as the meeting place for the Second Continental Congress. And in 1775, the Continental Congress voted George Washington as Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army. And so many significant meetings went on here in Independence Hall. Important documents were constructed and formed. A number of individuals sat under this roof right here in Independence Hall. And so let's look a little bit more at some things that went on at Independence Hall in a document specifically called the Declaration of Independence.
Yes, the Declaration of Independence is a document from the colonies declaring their break and freedom from Great Britain. June 1776, the Continental Congress concluded that a peaceful resolution from Britain was not going to happen. It wasn't possible. So on July 4th, 1776, the final wording of the Declaration of Independence was officially approved, and a few weeks later, 56 founding fathers signed this document.
And so you got to remember, this is a big deal. Understand, these men, they were making a crucial decision to sign this document because they would now be considered traitors of Great Britain and subject to the penalty of death. And so the final line of the Declaration of Independence, it announced that the signers had personally pledged our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. And so today, so many individuals, they don't understand the price paid or personal risk each signer faced. They knew that they would be targeted and likely executed, but they did not cower in fear, nor were they ashamed of standing for their principles. And so John Hancock, a significant individual, and he was the president of the Continental Congress, after signing the document in large writing, he stated, King George can read my name without spectacles and may now double his reward of 500 pounds, which is equivalent to $100,000 today, and he can trade it for my head.
Now, years later, Benjamin Rush reminisced to fellow signer John Adams about what had took place on the day they signed the document. Rush reminded Adams, "Do you recollect the pensive and awful silence which pervaded the house when we were called up, one after another, to the table of the President of the Congress to subscribe was what to be believed by many to be their own death warrants." These men knew what they were doing and still went through with it. The document starts by saying, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's gods entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. These men are saying, we will not be a part of you anymore, and we're breaking away from your tyranny.
Yeah, and if you read a few lines into this document, you come to one of the most popular spots in the Declaration of Independence. It says, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to institute a new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and their happiness. The Declaration of Independence is why we celebrate the 4th of July. It's the reason we get to celebrate freedom. And you can see from us reading this document, the Declaration of Independence, America's founders believed that rights came from God, that government must be based on the consent of the governed, and that when governments become oppressive, that they may be resisted and replaced. These men, they reference God throughout this entire document, and at the end of it, they clearly affirm and they say, a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence.
Obviously, the Christian faith played a vital role in the decisions these men made while forming the Declaration of Independence. Some of these signers, John Adams, Samuel Adams, Benjamin Franklin, John Hancock, Francis Hopkinson, Thomas Jefferson, Richard Henry Lee, Robert Morris, John Witherspoon, and so many more.
Yeah, and something else to note is that one of the most influential individuals when we start talking about the Declaration of Independence was a man named by John Wise. And you see, John Wise in the early 1700s, years before the Declaration of Independence, Reverend John Wise, a preacher, he was already preaching that all men are created equal, and that taxation without representation was tyranny, and that God's preferred form of government was the consent of the governed, and all of which is language recognizable in the Declaration of the Independence. And there's good reason that this language is similar. You see, in 1772, the Sons of Liberty, led by founders such as Sam Adams and John Hancock, they reprinted and they redistributed the Reverend Wise's sermons. They were reminding their fellow citizens of the core biblical principles of government.
So 4 years later, much of the Declaration of Independence reflected the language of those sermons by Reverend John Wise. Historians have noted some of the most glittering sentences in the immortal Declaration of Independence are almost literal quotations from the essay of John Wise. It was used as a political textbook in the great struggle for freedom. In 1926, on the 150th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, President Calvin Coolidge affirmed the thoughts in the Declaration can be very largely traced back to what John Wise was saying.
Yeah, and few today know that the Declaration of Independence was strongly influenced by the Reverend John Wise.